I'm Margaret Caples. I'm Executive Director of the Community Film Workshop. Well, I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, and I grew up in a segregated community, a black neighborhood with black schools, black principals, and it was a wonderful community. It was people who really supported you and expected the best out of you. I wanted to become a dietitian and attend Tuskegee Institute. However, my parents didn't have the money, so I ended up attending Lemoyne-on College, a historical black college in Memphis, Tennessee. And my major was sociology, and I minored in education. I did student teaching, but my daddy insisted that you're going to take education so that you can teach in case you don't get a social work job. And so my first job after college, I didn't work until after college because my dad was very protective of his daughters, and he didn't really want us working in white people's houses or anything like that. My dad worked at first tire and rubber company, and my mom worked at a laundry. And we lived in a house in a neighborhood with a lot of daddies who went to work and families, you know. So it was, I guess, pretty middle class, you know. We didn't know how good we had it. I didn't know how good I had it until I came to Chicago. But anyway, I was just fortunate to have the kind of parents I had and to have a praying dad and grandparents. I was surrounded with a lot of love. But then after graduating from Lemoyne, I took a job with a War on Poverty program in community organizing, and I worked with 21 women older than me, all older than me, and it was a wonderful experience. And then in January of 1968, I accepted a job at the Tennessee Department of Public Welfare. And at that time, we had a sanitation strike in Memphis. And so a lot of the men that were on strike were certified through the department. And my roommate and I lived not too far from Mason Temple, where they were having the rallies, and we attended the rallies and got a chance to hear Dr. Martin Luther King speech. And so I'm gonna just divert from that. But anyway, we met a photographer from Chicago doing all these rallies and everything. And after the assassination, we participated in the march, and they went to Atlanta to the funeral, and I stayed in Memphis. But an instructor of mine called us in May, maybe even later than that. But the University of Chicago was coming down to Lemoyne to interview students for the Graduate School of Social Work. So we both applied and got accepted. So in September, I came to Chicago, and on the second day, Bob Richards said, well, I want to take you all around and show you Chicago, and he did. And he said, well, why don't we stop by this friend of mine's photo studio at 441 North Clark? And we did, and so I met JT on the second day I was here in Chicago. So that's how I met my husband. And I accepted a job after graduating from University of Chicago with the Chicago Public Schools, and I worked in Inglewood. I worked at, the school is closed now, it was called Gershwin, then they changed it another name. Beale Primary now is Nicholson, and a lot of the schools have changed names, but I worked in Inglewood and Woodlawn at that time. Sexton School right over here as a school social worker. I took a sabbatical. I've always been interested in history, and I didn't do a good job of it when I was doing it, but I wanted to do a family history. So after that, that was when JT asked me if I would come down to the workshop to work, and so that's where I've been since.